My best friend and I growing up, like in her parents' basement, we had a little school set up and we would play teacher like daily. Like it's what we did for years and years. All I ever really thought about doing, like as my career choice, like growing up, was that I wanted to be a teacher, and I've always been really involved in sports, so to coach and teach was kind of always what I knew I was going to do. It wasn't really too much of a decision when the time came to go to college. That was what I set out to do, and came back here, went to school here at Putnam County, came back, got my first job here at Putnam County. I've taught my whole 10-year teaching career at Putnam County, and now I'm walking away, I guess. So I was impatient when I got home. I had nothing left, and I was becoming a person that I didn't really like when I would reflect on how I was thinking and how I was acting. Every day I was getting up, almost like I had a pit in my stomach, driving to school. And I'm like, why am I feeling like this? Why am I putting myself through this, basically? And I'd slap on a happy face and I'd teach my students, and I'd go home and I'd be stressed and I'd do it again the next day.
Position in education, whether it's a teacher or a paraprofessional or a cook or a custodian or a secretary, it doesn't matter who you are. You're in it for the students. And for so long in your career, you've been asked to sacrifice for students and sacrifice for keeping our schools available for them, whether it's serving them academically or socially or behaviorally, whatever it may be. We ask them to sacrifice, and then the pandemic rolls on us, and that sacrifice becomes even more because now it takes into account so many other factors. You could be going into a day of work thinking that you're going to have a normal day teaching, and next thing you know, you're getting thrown more students because your teacher next door isn't there, and that just becomes overbearing.
I've had different staff members who, in 1 week's time, who is an aide, became a cafeteria worker, a custodian, and a secretary all in 1 week.
At about this time last year, the light at the end of the tunnel was next year. Next year was going to be so different, and next year was going to be a whole lot better. The vaccines were rolling out, numbers were looking really good, and then things went the way that they did and took a turn, and I think that letdown was hard.
And I think that we all had our hopes up that this year was going to be different. It's just exhaustion at this point. Like, everybody is so tired.
For the last 16 years, I've loved my job. This is the first year I wake up every morning and I'm just like, can we do it today? Can we find enough staff to make it work? Can everybody, make the best of this terrible situation when everyone's under all this stress, even the teachers and the TAs and the cooks, the lunch servers, the secretary, everybody, custodians, you name it. There is not one department that has not been affected by this. And trying to ask them to do more to help keep this building afloat, it's hard when everybody's kind of at the end of their rope.
In the end, we just want to do what's best for kids and our staff. And that's, I guess, what's been really tough. Some of these mandates and really now seeing it's political and it's not what's best for children. And I think we have to be better about standing up. And I think our region really does a nice job with that, but we have to be the voice and stand up for these kids.
You were doing what was best based on what you knew. And if we had to go back, maybe we'd do some things differently. But ultimately, we've had good people that rose to challenges and had to do a lot of hard work.
And it doesn't matter which level it would be, whether it's early childhood, elementary, special ed, or secondary. There are deep need areas. Yes, there are shortages, and I hear from district principals almost weekly about that.
It's made it more challenging for all of us when the pool is so small to begin with. When we see neighboring schools posting the same positions, it's a frequent conversation that we have is okay, well, it's what do we need to do differently, in order to make LP more marketable, for those individuals to want to be here as opposed to, another area school district.
If the educators are happy, if the educators are walking into the classrooms and they're having good days, and our students typically mirror that, and they have good days as well. But if we're sending teachers or staff into classrooms and they're overburdened, then that's going to resonate across our schools. So that's why it's important that we do all we can in order to make it successful. It's really just an all hands on deck approach at all times.
You know, and we all had hope that by the time summer was over and like things would maybe be a little bit more normal that next year. It wasn't. And then we got through last year, and then this year's coming and we're like, gotta be able to get better. And you know, you see things that people are saying even if you don't want to see it, and it just digs deep. More and more pressure from people on the outside to give it all up, and this is ridiculous and we can't keep doing this.
Alarming rise in COVID cases.
Judge's decision cultivates chaos.
After what she calls unrelenting harassment.
That was the first thing we all noticed in August, was like, holy cow, like it's been a while since they've been here. So trying to like reestablish like routines again.
I was not going to be able to get them to where I wanted them to be, because they were already coming in behind.
Education is a difficult profession because there's so much that goes into it. Like there's so much heart and emotion that educators have to put into just daily activities, lesson planning, grading, you know, classroom management.
I'll be honest with you, it isn't for the lighthearted. You are the teacher. You are a motherly figure. Sometimes you're a nurse. Sometimes you're a psychologist.
Having some kids in the classroom and the next day they were gone for 2 weeks. So it was hard to balance the kids in quarantine and having kids in the classroom, making sure everyone's kind of on the same page, keeping up to date.
Teaching is all about keeping the kids engaged, and it's very challenging to keep a learner at home engaged and all the learners at school engaged when you're sharing screens or you're trying to show them and they're trying to show you.
Everything was so closed off before, and how they couldn't interact as much, and you couldn't share things, and just to like build a tower together that, no, we can't do that, you can't touch this.
As we all know, the social emotional has been a huge impact on these kids, and being at home and not being around their peers, that we've been battling that as well.
There's something that keeps us waking up and doing it every day, despite all the challenges, despite, you know, the shortages, despite the pay, despite all of those things.
Has just been a huge blow to my morale. You know, years and years, like I said, each year, you're like, we'll all band together, we'll put in the extra hours, we'll figure it out. I have probably 7 years to go in my career, and this isn't how I imagined it ending. I don't expect that we'll get fully staffed before I leave.
I think it's just kind of an all hands on deck type of thing. So where if there's teachers out who have duties, trying to be able to fill those duties, Mrs. Mott, our principal, just kind of asks for help. She's stepped in quite a bit. So honestly, it's just knowing that, yes, you may have this position as being a first grade teacher, but you might have to wear a lot of different hats throughout the day.
Hearing and seeing all this stuff, like why would people want to get into it? And I'm not saying that to say people shouldn't. I'm just saying that, like, at this point, honestly, that I think that if anyone's deciding to go into education, they kind of know what they're getting themselves into, because it's been so publicized, you know? I mean, we're trying our best and trying to make the best of the situation, but the negativity and the blame, that, like, as if we have any control over what's happening.
It highlights the systemic issues that exist and that we need to take care of. The problem with those issues, like these shortages, is you want to take care of them. We know they're there, but when our time is so focused on making sure the building's open the next day and that the teachers have the adequate supplies and trying to work with them to keep students in school, how do you address the system when you're addressing the next day?
The shortage doesn't look the same everywhere. And that the workforce needs are not the same everywhere. When I think about shortage, I actually think about a series of smaller components that together make up the teacher shortage in Illinois. And each of these plays out in a way that is very localized, that is very context specific, and the root causes and the factors that influence these local shortages can vary from place to place, from community to community.
If we don't have viable schools, we don't have viable communities. Not all fields are equally recruiting students. So that's an effort from the university that we're trying to build partnerships with high schools.
Have fewer individuals that are interested in going into teaching, and so we've had to work really hard to try and recruit more people into teacher education by making accessible pathways, by helping them have greater access to our programs.
Teachers will, of course, take on every bit of responsibility that they need to try to make sure they're there for their students, to put on the programs and teach them what they need to do. Our administrators are putting in extra time, trying to find ways to do more with less, to the point of even driving school buses just to make sure that we have enough people in the school on a daily basis.
Everybody's going to struggle with bus drivers, but we've really struggled this year for sure. We have bus drivers, it's not even a COVID related situation, just other health issues.
It's like we've got our transportation director driving the bus, and then she's like, if one more person goes, like, we can't drive kids to school.
With the shortages, what does that mean? It means there are times where we cover each other's routes, or that maybe a school will have to double up. There's no way around the fact that it's frustrating when people are counting on us to be there at a designated time and we're not there. That's frustrating for them.
But we are having a rough time replacing paraprofessionals when they leave us, whether it be retirement or to go on to something else. School psychologists, that's been the most difficult to replace.
We have a shortage of substitutes. So even prior to the pandemic, I think Serena maintained a good amount of subs, but with the pandemic, it's been touch and go day to day.
We have been experiencing a shortage in all the above. We have right now, we're lucky to have 2 subs that consistently work for us and help us out, but when they're gone or when they can't come in, I'm subbing in classrooms. I have paras that sometimes sub in classrooms. I have a reading specialist that will sub in classrooms.
When I had first started in the superintendent position, we used to take home boxes of resumes when we had a teaching position open, and now we're lucky if we get into the double digits.
We saw limited number of applicants, and not all of those were exactly qualified for what we were looking for. So it was even less than that when it came down to it.
When one person out, it can have a ripple effect on all staff. But I think I'm very fortunate here where, like I said, we're a small setting, and so when one of us is out, we kind of all just step up to the plate and do our part and help out wherever needed. So I am very fortunate on that end.
I wear a lot of hats, so if I have to go out and do it, I go out and do it. I do what I have to do. I channel the social worker in me and try to help, even though I'm not.
Shortage is an equity issue. School districts that are less well-resourced, school districts that serve children and families from communities that have suffered disinvestment and that have been historically marginalized, those communities bear the brunt of the teacher shortage.
While guidelines are put to try to make everything have a level of equity, they're not equitable, and they're not followed the same based off of everyone's ability to interpret the written language a different way.
We continue to talk about things that maybe weren't necessarily education's responsibility a decade ago, 2 decades ago, from making sure that no child is hungry in a school to making sure that they have after-school support as well.
We've heard a lot of things where teachers are being blamed or teachers are being criticized. And I think that might make some folks think, well, why would I want to go into that profession? So I believe that we need to get teachers out there talking about the value, the importance, the impact that teaching can have.
This past fall, I was able to attend a workshop for the first time in 2 years in person. And the workshop, ironically, was social and emotional, ways we can help our students and also our staff. And it really opens your eyes to, there's so much people are going through.
Every day that students go into school buildings that are not fully staffed is a day that young person is missing out on instruction they have a right to.
We've done great things that nobody thought we'd ever have to do, and hopefully we'll never have to do them again. But we've risen up to that challenge, and I'm just proud and thankful, and there's a bright future ahead.
These 4 bills are part of a larger effort to rebuild the ranks of teachers and paraprofessional educators across our state after years of decline. I'm proud that Illinois has added more than 5,600 teachers to the profession this school year alone. Over the last 3 years, we've raised the minimum teacher salaries. We've better funded teacher pensions. We've provided $1.2 billion for the evidence-based school funding model. We've made it easier for retired teachers to come back to work, enhanced recruitment and retention programs, and created more flexible routes for licensure. And there's still so much more work to be done to ensure that no classroom goes without an education professional.
I think it's ingrained in education so many times that we drop the baggage at the door, walk into the classroom, and put on a smile on our face. When the truth is sometimes we need to recognize that not every teacher is okay, not every staff member is okay. So we need to provide them the support to make sure they are.
I had mentioned it in passing to some friends at times, talked to other friends and family members that are teachers and been like, I really think I need to do something else. And they're all like, I would not blame you if you did. They all got it. That day on my prep period at school, wrote this letter. We had 45 minutes. I mean, it just came out of me. All right, here we go, I guess. Dear Putnam County, I have made the decision to step away from teaching after dedicating the last 10 years to Putnam County schools. I felt compelled to share my reasons and thoughts with you on how this decision came to be. To put it simply, I am exhausted, mentally, physically, and emotionally. The toll that this has taken on my life has reached the point where I feel like my only option is to walk away. The very next day, I asked my superintendent if I could stop by to chat, and he said, I'll actually be over in your building. I can pop in. And I was like, all right, I guess I'm doing this. That was that. When I got home from school, I decided to post that online. It's a small community. I didn't just want people hearing that I resigned and make up their own assumptions as to why I did. I posted it and I made it public, knowing that some people would probably share it or whatever, but it kind of blew up. I definitely didn't expect the reaction that I got, which was overwhelmingly positive. I was getting messages from parents of kids I taught years ago, telling me an impact I made on their kid's life, and I never even knew that kid liked me very much in class. I was reached out to by former classmates from when I was in school that I haven't talked to in 10 years. Former teachers that I had in high school were reaching out to me. That's what's made it, I guess, harder that this is actually I'm actually done now, because I hear from all those people in a positive way, and it's the negative voices are so much louder and have eaten at me for so long, and then to hear all the positive stuff was really nice. And I wish that is what could be amplified more, was the positive stuff, but fortunately it's not the case. Most of the time the negative voices are the louder ones. So
I think celebrate is something we don't often do enough of, and my office is fortunate. We pull our districts together yearly. We do an excellence in education event. Being together and being recognized, it really was something special. And now that the rain was going to come, having to pivot inside, it truly was a success. And I know personally I walked away with an excitement and an appreciation. And I can't thank our educational partners enough. It truly has been a team effort to be able to get through this.
But this is what I was made to do. The kids, the people, our community, we really have a great thing going here. I couldn't do anything else.
But I'm so blessed to be able to do what I do and to be able to come here, and we have a wonderful school. I love the people I work with. I love the kids, the community.
Each day is a new day. You never know what you're going to get, and I enjoy that challenge with them.
Those relationships are what keep you coming back.
and you can't trade that for anything.
It makes you want to be here, knowing that they're looking for you to be here.
Being in a school has always felt like home. So it's the kids and just watching them grow.
Right there, hands-on influencing someone who can make a humongous change in our world. And that's what it's all about.
It's so worth it. Having that long-lasting relationship with your students makes it 100% worth it.
I've had students that have some really hard things they're going through, and sometimes school is the one thing that is constant for them. There's lots of hard work, you're gonna have lots of frustration, but it's all worth it.
You know, helping them become better people, you know, teaching things. Right, Troy?
Right.
Right.
Then they think, oh, history, like this is gonna be terrible, I'm gonna hate this. But then they see how awesome it can be to learn history. That's what keeps me coming back, I guess.
If you make being in the classroom enjoyable, even if they hate school, they don't want to be here, they might accidentally learn something because they're like, at least I have fun in there.
When you close that door and you're in there teaching your kids, can escape from the real world.
Even when it's tough and there's tough days, I usually look forward to coming back the next day because every day is a new start.
The stories they tell you, the little things that happen throughout the day that just, you know, make your day more fun. The kids keep bringing me back every year.
It's been really rewarding for me seeing the changes behaviorally, socially, academically, emotionally. Seeing all of those changes in these kids has just been astounding.
As they're growing up, I'll see them out and about, and they'll come up to me and say, Mr. Bannock, remember when we did this, and I love that.
We complicate it as adults, and they just nice and simple and bring you back to that.
For people who want to make the world a better place, there's really no better profession than teaching.
I do try to convince people to become teachers. I really enjoy it. I would still get into teaching again, even with things the past few years.
You know, everybody has good and bad days, but every day I wake up, I really, really love my job.
I just have always loved learning, and I knew that was something I wanted to do and create that love of learning in others.
I know nothing would make me this happy, this fulfilled. Like no other job would do that.
You need to be able to be all in, for sure.
Yes, it's been a tough time with the pandemic, but I want to just recognize not only our educators, our parents and families, and our leaders across the state, because I think together we have really done the best that we could do to make sure that our children had what they needed and are getting back on track.
I will cherish the many good memories I have from my time working in our school district. All of my current and former students and athletes have impacted my life in unforgettable ways. Creating relationships with young people from many different walks of life have shaped me into a more understanding, tolerant, accepting, and empathetic person. My biggest hope is that I have impacted some lives along the way as well. When August rolls around and the kids are going back to school, that's when it's really gonna hit me, and I'm gonna probably have some feelings. You know, I can 100% see myself someday going back to it, but if I ever decide to go back to teaching, I hope it will be here. I hope I would be welcomed back here. I'm thankful for all my colleagues and everyone in this whole area, every teacher out there that's gonna keep forging ahead, and that's what they have to do, and that's what they'll do.